I'm going to teach you how to dye a very simple tote bag using tie-dye. One of my favorite techniques to dye bags is just simply scrunch it in a random way, so you can get this very organic but also like subtle and cool pattern. I'm going to be using the color black because I like to have black tote bags, and I think it's a color that matches really well everything you wear. So I'm going a little bit for the look that you can see in this swatch over here. So here's my tote bag, and when you want to do a pretty random scrunching, that's what you want to think of, random. So forget placing the scrunch in one end or another end, because that will just like make a more specific pattern. So you want to start gathering your tote bag using your fingers, a little like making these fluff kind of shapes, but you want to like keep it random but somehow consistent, so you don't end up with areas that are totally white and areas that are totally colored. You might decide to include or not include your stripes into the pattern. Maybe now that I see it, I'm going to decide by not including, so my straps will be fully black and only the body of the bag will be patterned. So once I gather it, you want to use rubber bands to keep the gathering together, and as you can see, there's not a lot of science to it. You pretty much just wrapping your gathering randomly with the rubber bands. And if you want your pattern to be pretty sparse with a lot of white areas, like for instance this one, then you should add as many rubber bands as possible. So I'm going to add quite a few. And it's always good for these projects to have a huge stash of rubber bands, and you can get them pretty much at any office supply store, and they're super cheap, so don't worry about using too many. And you can always reuse them for other projects, so if you're careful when you're removing them, you can just rinse them and then just reuse them on other projects. So there's very little waste. Okay, maybe a couple more, but it's looking pretty good. After you tie it in your scrunch pattern, you want to make sure that you get your tote bag wet before you put it in the dye vat. So I'm going to get it wet right now. I prepared already my dye bath, my black dye bath, by mixing the dye into water and by adding the dye activator or washing soda to it. Just a quick tip on dyeing garments black. Black is the hardest color to get. It's really, really hard to get a pure black. So this is the case that more is better. You want to add really a lot of black dye if you want to go to as close to pure black as possible. So I add quite a lot. After your dye bath is ready and everything was dissolved, you want to enter your fabric in it, and once again make sure that it stays fully submerged for the whole time that is dyeing. And after 1 hour you can remove it, take the rubber bands out and rinse it and see the result. So the bag has been soaking in the dye vat for about an hour, and I just remove it, I wringed out the excess, and I quickly rinse it into water. I'm about to open the bundle and reveal the results, so let's see how this looks like. Be careful when you're removing the rubber bands so you don't splash yourself. Also, you might hurt yourself because the rubber bands are pretty tight, so just be careful with it. And you can see as I'm opening that we have a couple of lines in the fabric created by the rubber band, so I think these are going to look neat. So many rubber bands, but I guess that's what will make the pattern cooler. Okay, the moment that we've been waiting for the past hour. And this is the final tote bag. So a pretty random tie-dye pattern in the bottom. You also see that something that I find kind of cool happened, that as the dye was traveling to areas that had a slight resist, the color sort of deconstructed, so you see some purples appearing, and that gives it like some more depth. And the strap ended up being a really solid and nice black, which I think contrasts really well with the rest of it. So I'm overall happy with the results. And this was how you can tie-dye a tote bag using fiber reactive dyes.